What you're looking at is a film of a computer-constructed virtual reality model of the Forum built by the Emperor Trajan, one of the most important monuments of Imperial Rome. This model was created for a variety of purposes: to explore the implications and potential of virtual reality modeling for researchers, conservators, educators, and students. Virtual reality allows us to move through an ancient monument or environment in 3 dimensions. As a research tool for historians, archaeologists, classicists, and architectural historians, it provides a new way of storing, managing, and retrieving a large amount of information in a compelling and easily understood format. It also permits the reconstruction, restoration, and presentation of poorly preserved archaeological sites to an ever-growing public without touching the original fabric of the monument. In this way, it is a powerful tool for conservators, just as it is for educators. Virtual reality is allowing students of all ages the opportunity to visit, experience, and enjoy ancient environments and works of art in context. The virtual reality model of the Forum of Trajan is a dynamic, interactive way to connect with the past. The Emperor Trajan built his forum as a memorial to his military campaigns. Everywhere visitors looked, they saw sculptures celebrating the Emperor Trajan. It was a place where the public went to enjoy themselves. It was a great urban monument. The man behind the monument was M. Ulpius Traianus Augustus, commonly known as Trajan. He was from an Italian family, but born in Spain. The most important aspect of his career was that Trajan was a veteran, a soldier first and foremost. He cut a majestic figure, rugged face, iron grey hair, steely eyes, after the unpredictable callow youths like Caligula and Nero, and after the scraggly old men like Galba and Nerva. Trajan was a person and a face that commanded respect. The dawn of the golden age of the Roman Empire began with the ascension of Trajan in 98 AD, almost 2,000 years ago. What was Rome under the reign of Trajan? It was the political, the social, and the economic center of a vast empire, the largest empire that the Western world had ever seen. The Forum of Trajan was one of the great formal centers of ancient Rome. It was also the last and grandest of the great imperial fora, which had begun with Julius Caesar's additions to the original Old Roman Forum. The Forum of Trajan was used for a variety of government functions. Embassies were received there, and it was the place where law courts were held. Slaves, for example, were freed in one of the semicircular halls attached to the Grand Law Court, the Basilica Ulpia, but it was more than that. It was a statement in 3 dimensions of the purposes of the Roman Empire, of conquest and of victory and of imperial power. This imperial forum made by Trajan is slightly different than the other imperial fora because it originally did not include a temple, but was laid out more like a military camp. This military association in its layout highlighted the fact that the forum had been paid for with booty that Trajan had acquired from his successful military campaigns, and every Roman would have recognized that immediately. Trajan was the first of the Roman emperors to realize, at least in part, Caesar's dream of conquering Dacia and Parthia, and it was under him that the Roman Empire reached the high tide of its territorial expansion. One way that Trajan commemorated his victory over the Dacians was to physically incorporate them as a decorative aspect of his forum. These enormous carved figures held up the roof of Trajan's forum. The Dacians were now subjects of Rome, working for the emperor. The Forum of Trajan took a very short time to build. We know that it was started about 105 AD and that it was dedicated in 112. The Forum of Trajan is right in the center of ancient Rome. Here we are above the ancient city, and what we have done is we've nestled the Forum of Trajan into a very simple map of ancient Rome. It is very close to the old Roman Forum and near the Capitoline Hill. It was, in antiquity, and still is just up the street from the Colosseum, the huge amphitheater of Imperial Rome, right in the heart of the ancient city. The Forum was the largest building of its sort ever built. The entire project was conceived and constructed under the supervision of Apollodorus of Damascus, the architect that Trajan had employed, and construction on it began, first of all, by having to clear a huge area of central Rome. Trajan's Forum covered an enormous area of several football fields, and you have to realize that people lived in very cramped apartment buildings, several stories in height, with no elevators, and so they used these public spaces as their outdoor living space. The Forum didn't have a magnificent entry from the outside because the city of Rome was very dense, property was very expensive, and there was very little open space. So the surprise of walking through narrow streets and then suddenly coming into this huge open space must have been terrific. This version of the virtual reality model of the Forum of Trajan was built as a collaboration between the J. Paul Getty Trust and the School of Arts and Architecture at UCLA. It is based on the research and reconstructions of Professor James Packer.
I think virtual reality modeling is really the future of where all studies of ancient architecture are going to go. It makes instantly available all the results of the immense amount of research that went into constructing it. So, for instance, it took me 25 years to study the Forum of Trajan. It will take any visitor about 3 minutes to review the results of all of this research. On the virtual reality model, of course, it's possible to look into corners, to see things from different perspectives. You can zip around it, you can look at it from the top, you can go through colonnades, you can see things from all sorts of different directions. It's a wonderful tool, but it's also, of course, a wonderful toy.
The Forum was made of very luxurious materials, marbles from Greece, granites from Egypt, which were brought to Rome because of the excellent communications and transportation during the Roman Empire. But it was more than just a question of the movement of commodities. The quarries themselves were owned by the emperor. These rich materials marked the status of very important projects, in contrast to the brick and tufa construction in the city's everyday buildings. We have some idea of the way the Forum of Trajan was constructed. Most of it was done by a highly organized group of artisans who were probably not slaves. These were craft guilds, for example, marble cutters, workmen who laid pavements, those who carved friezes, craftsmen who sculpted columns, and so forth. There would be somebody, for instance, who would rough out the general forms of architraves and cornices, and then the specialists on architectural ornaments would come in and do the finishing. The Forum had several distinct parts. It had a large open courtyard with trees and sculpture. This was a very important gathering place for a variety of activities, including, notably under Hadrian, the burning of debts, which, of course, the citizens loved. These were debts to the government. The models of people in authentic dress scattered all round give you some idea of the enormous scale of this building. We know from a variety of sources that in the center of the courtyard was erected an equestrian statue showing the Emperor Trajan on horseback. Unfortunately, nothing survives of the statue today, and this presented us with the problem of how to depict in the model such a statue. The equestrian statue that we finally decided to use was that of a later Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius, whose monumental bronze statue still survives in good condition. Also poorly preserved was the evidence for the trees, but enough information survived in the pavement of the plaza to allow specialists to reconstruct it with rows of trees. We do not know what types of trees were actually planted there. On either side of the open courtyard were large colonnades providing protection from the sun, wind, and rain. The floors and walls were elaborately lined with a variety of colored stones. In the center of each colonnade was a large hemicycle, which greatly increased the area of roofed space. Beyond the colonnades was a large basilica, which was a huge hall used for multi-purpose activities, including courts. This was the Basilica Ulpia, one of the most impressive roofed halls in ancient architecture. In antiquity, libraries always came in pairs, one for Greek scrolls, the other for texts in Latin. The scrolls that were stored in the libraries were kept in wooden cabinets along the walls, and between these two libraries was a courtyard with the famous column of Trajan. In the area beyond the column, to the north, we have literary evidence indicating that there was a temple of the deified Trajan. This has never been excavated, and its location and exact dimensions remain unknown. The virtual reality model of the Forum of Trajan is of interest to architectural historians because of the possibilities of recreating urban environments from the past. Professor Diane Farvo.
I wanted to be able to experience what it was like to walk through an ancient environment, to understand what the lighting was like there, what the scale was like, how long it took to cross a particular space, which are things very difficult to recreate using drawings or traditional historical methods. So this for me was very exciting, to be able to recreate not just a single building, but larger complexes to understand cities in the past. One of the advantages of a virtual reality model is that it allows you to evaluate different reconstructions, which are very important for archaeologists and historians because we have so little of the remains, and therefore different scholars have different hypotheses, or one scholar may want to test two different reconstructions. So in the model we can show a flat ceiling, for example, and a curved ceiling, just to see what the different impact is in terms of lighting, the aesthetics, and so forth. And this is really a very good advantage for us because with hard drawings that can't be changed, you would have to redo the entire drawing. This way we can use the same model to show alternatives.
One of the most important aspects of a model like this is its conservation potential. It allows for a level of reconstruction and restoration without touching the original fabric of the monument. Only a small portion of the Forum of Trajan is known to us today. Large parts of the building have never been excavated. These lie buried under the bustling center of modern-day Rome. There's so little of the Forum of Trajan left today because parts of it collapsed in antiquity and throughout the ages. A building that is no longer used does that. Roofs fall in, columns collapse. But more importantly than that, providing a readily available source of carved stone, the various parts of the Forum were used throughout the Middle Ages in other building projects. This has meant that the monument itself can never be reconstructed with its original pieces. It is only through virtual reality that a monument such as this can be fully rebuilt and experienced. This virtual reality model is based on scholarly reconstruction. It's like trying to reconstruct a whole building today from a fragment of a roof tile and 3 bricks. The importance of virtual modeling for scholars is that this is a new and exciting way of storing, recording, and manipulating a large amount of data, a large amount of visual information. This virtual model was created at the UCLA School of Arts and Architecture by a team headed by William Jepson, the director of the computing lab.
We're using military flight simulation technology that we've married to virtual reality technology here at UCLA. The methodology that we've developed and married to the technology which we've created here as well is what gives us the veracity in the models. We're all used to looking at television and understanding what we see. It makes it very compelling and easily understood. It's the first time that we've used it for historic reconstruction. Primarily, we've been using this to create models of the city as it exists today. We call that urban simulation. You could have any point of view. We have fly mode, walk mode, drive mode. So you can go anywhere and view it from any and all perspectives as you would if you were a tourist in the year 400 AD. There's very strong evidence that ancient Rome had a significant smog problem. So with our system, we can bring up smog, which is less acceptable, but in fact, ancient Rome had a very, very difficult smog problem. Let's turn off the smog. Another thing that we can do is we can change the time of day from day to evening. Now, in a more complex model, we could actually place lights and have them come on at night. At some point, we'll have torches burning within the Forum of Trajan.
Most of the detail that you see in the model has been drawn from photographs of the small pieces that remain of the Forum. For instance, you'll notice that there are various tile patterns. These have all been reconstructed from drawings and photographs as accurately as possible. Dean Abernathy of the UCLA School of Arts and Architecture explains.
So what we've done is used the marked up plans that tell us exactly what the materials are. And if we take the textures off, you'll see there's just a plain piece of geometry. And this kind of demonstrates how we get the most out of our modeling. So from a single polygon, we can actually give the illusion of having a multi-textured surface. And the same goes for the walls and for the pieces of the facade also. We take one of the sections and we scan it, bring it into the computer. When we construct the entire basilica with 90 plus granite columns, they'll all be shaded properly and have the proper texture to it, while only having to have done it once. Once we've created the column model, we reference it into the basilica, and then we can reference in the rest.
We can embed URLs, which are web addresses, in any graphic object in the model. So it allows us to empower the classicists, the archaeologists, the subject experts to enhance these models with information without having to build a 3D model themselves. We're actually developing a client-server capability, which we've actually got running in the laboratory, that will allow these models to be distributed in real time over the World Wide Web. People will be able, as they walk through these models, they'll be able to see each other and interact with each other. We're looking at developing virtual actors so that while you're walking through the Forum of Trajan, you'll be able to see Trajan walking around. And perhaps people will be able to stop and interact with him, ask him questions, get answers. I think that professors would like to hold their office hours, not in their office, but in the Forum of Trajan, where they'll pick a date where something will be happening. And their students, not from a classroom, but from all over campus and from their homes, will join them there, and they'll walk through, and they'll understand, and they'll learn together.
There is vast educational potential for virtual reality models that are used for historic reconstruction, such as this one. Leilani Duke, the director of the Getty Education Institute, explains.
Sometimes it's hard for children to imagine what it would be like to visit an ancient site. And through virtual reality, they have that experience made very real and concrete for them. Teachers are excited about this medium because they can take their students on a field trip to the Forum without having to get on a plane, and they can have a whole history lesson in a surround that is authentic. Our society today is so image-based, and children are learning more and more through images in a way that our generation never did. Giving a child the opportunity to actually walk through and experience the Forum begins to stimulate them to ask questions like, who was Trajan? Why did he build this immense place? Why should I even care about the past? What is its meaning for me? What kind of works of art were here and why? Technology is changing the face of education today. One of the wonderful things that the model allows children to do is to have an experience with their friends in an architecture wonder that they would never be able to experience. They can say to their friends who live next door, across the country, around the world, meet me in the Forum. Let's go for a walk.
But on a walk through the Forum today, very little remains. The best preserved part of the Forum today is the monumental column of Trajan, originally surmounted by a bronze statue of the emperor. It was in the base of the column that Trajan was buried. Standing to a height of about 100 feet, the detailed reliefs on the column depict the emperor's victorious battles over the Dacians, Rome's enemy to the north. Conceived as a giant scroll, the continuous frieze, if unrolled, would be about 600 feet long. It depicts Trajan's Dacian campaigns. Carved on the completed shaft, these scenes, which originally may have been brightly colored, probably illustrated the emperor's own commentary on his campaigns. As the hero of these wars, Trajan himself appears in the 155 separate scenes, no less than 60 times. Inside the column, 185 steps wind around the cylindrical central core. At the top of the column, the stair ends at the door that opens onto a platform which provides one of the most spectacular views of the Eternal City. One of the real enigmas of Trajan's Forum is how one viewed the column, and the question has always been, how did somebody see it in antiquity? The technology behind this virtual reality model allows us a glimpse of the sort of viewing angles that the Romans themselves may have had of the column and the other buildings as well. We can explore the monument from any perspective we choose. This tool enriches our understanding of the little that remains of Trajan's Forum.
Well, oftentimes in a museum, we really don't understand the objects because we don't see them in context. And what the virtual reality model does is to enable us to understand how works of art functioned in a wonderful public setting. The virtual reality model is an educational breakthrough. This medium really engages children in a way that textbooks and other media doesn't. It makes something immediate and unique and special for them.
Virtual reality provides us the ability to explore, interpret, classify, and reconstruct the past in new, more penetrating and exciting ways. The potential of this technology points in many directions. As a research tool, it provides a new and powerful way of storing, managing, and retrieving a vast amount of information. It has enormous conservation potential since it allows for non-destructive reconstruction and restorations. It is also a significant alternative for presenting archaeological sites and monuments to an ever-growing and demanding public. As an educational tool, virtual reality is allowing students of all ages the opportunity to visit and experience ancient environments. It also makes instantly available all of the results of an immense amount of scholarly research and presents it to the public in a compelling format that can be quickly appreciated. Works of art, even ancient lifestyles, can be presented in context in a meaningful way. This virtual reality model allows us a window into time. We can go back to the past and recreate the experience of actually being in the Forum of Trajan as it might have been 2,000 years ago.